No game, not even the greatest ones out there, is ever perfect, which means even the best of the best games that we've ever played manage to falter every now and then with poorly made sections that stand in stark contrast to the overall quality of the rest of the experience. In this feature, that's what we're going to focus on as we talk about terrible levels or sections in what were otherwise great games. So with all that said, let's get started. YIGA Clan Hideout, The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Forced stealth sections in games that are not stealth-focused are never a good idea, and this is probably a poster boy for that concept. In a game that is all about letting players do whatever they want, YIGA Clan is a level that forces you to do particular things in particular ways. What's worse is that it's not even good. The AI is no good, the stealth is questionable, and it goes on for a bit too long. Chapter 13, Final Fantasy XV. Final Fantasy XV has quite a lot of problems, but though it's a long list, Chapter 13 is very surely close to the top. The open-ended nature of the first half of the game and the banter the four main characters have in each other's company are the best things about this game, and Chapter 13 completely ignores both of them. It puts Noctis in a boring, linear corridor with repetitive combat encounters, all alone. Royal Edition does fix it to some degree, but it still can come as a shock to the system, especially in the base game. BARRET Boss Fight, Deus Ex Human Revolution. Similar to the first two games we've spoken about in this list, the weakest parts of Deus Ex Human Revolution fail to grasp what the game's biggest strengths are, and they suffer for it. The boss fights ignore the fact that the rest of the game revels in letting players tackle situations however they want, and force players to take the lethal route. That means that if you've invested in non-lethal progression throughout the game, when you get to a boss fight, you're pretty much screwed. Thankfully, the boss fights were fixed in the director's cut, so credit to the developers for that.
Don't die on me yet. This Boy Scout's got a few questions to ask.
Scouting the Port, GTA 5. It seems Rockstar have a compulsion to put at least one strange, bad mission in every GTA game, and we'll be speaking about some of those throughout this feature. In GTA 5, that mission takes the form of Scouting the Port, which has you moving boxes. Here's a game about broken, violent criminals in a rotting, decadent society, but this one entire mission forces the player to align shipping containers and place them on top of each other. Sounds riveting.
Break time!
How about this view, huh? I'm gonna take some photos for the kids.
Blight Town, Dark Souls. We're not the first to talk about the issues with Blight Town in the original Dark Souls, and we definitely won't be the last. It's something that fans of the series will remember till their dying breath. Blight Town had a few problems, even from a design perspective, such as its many traps and its rickety, all too narrow pathways. But the biggest issue of them all were the horrible frame rates in this section, which just made the entire area that much more frustrating. The remaster went on to fix those issues, but if you're among the brave who defeated the challenges of Blight Town in the base game, well, you are a brave soul. Demolition Man, GTA Vice City. The remote-controlled chopper mission in GTA Vice City is something that still gives nightmares to so many of us. In concept, it sounds like so much fun, but when you actually get to playing it, it comes across as surprisingly challenging. Not only because controlling it without dealing too much damage to the bombs is a pain, but also because there's a timer that you have to deal with, and because you're constantly being hassled by enemy AI. Put together, it's a bit much. Episode 46, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Metal Gear Solid 5 is a game full of ups and downs, but surely the one mission in the entire game that exemplifies many of the issues players had with it is Episode 46, The Truth. This is where the game's big twist about the identities of Venom Snake and Big Boss are revealed, and for many Metal Gear fans, it was a pretty deflating moment. It felt like a betrayal of what fans wanted from the story, and the fact that this reveal came through a game that skipped answering so many other questions on account of its own incomplete nature made it that much harder to deal with.
Thank you, my friend. From here on out, you're Big Boss.
Meat Circus, Psychonauts. Psychonauts Meat Circus was already fighting an uphill battle on account of being an escort mission, but it had other things working against it as well. For instance, the game saw a sudden and significant difficulty spike in the game, with hazards and challenges that were suddenly demanding too much from players, to the extent that one could have spent countless attempts to get through this section. It does frankly become a little easier once you beat it, but those first few attempts feel like banging your head against a wall. Atlantica, Kingdom Hearts 2. Atlantica is a location that Kingdom Hearts has, for whatever reason, struggled with more than once, but never as much as it did with Kingdom Hearts 2. Atlantica was utterly pointless and dreadfully boring in the second game in the series. It had nothing going for it, from mediocre music to an over-reliance on a shallow rhythm mechanic that got old too fast, to the fact that, in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't add anything meaningful to the story. Tutorial. Driver. The infamously bad driver tutorial. The tutorial that completely misses the point of being a tutorial. While tutorials in most games would start you off with the basics, left stick to move, right stick for camera controls, now go play, drivers tutorials want you to prove yourself in a trial by fire. Make your car do a backflip while it's jumping off a ramp and through a ring before it lands on the roof of a monster truck with perfect balance. Maybe then you could play the game. MAKO sections. Mass Effect. The original Mass Effect is, and probably always will be, considered one of the greatest RPGs ever made, but even it had some issues. The biggest issue of them all was the infamous MAKO sections. Everything about them felt clunky, from the driving mechanics and the controls to the unengaging combat, to the dull tasks that only felt like they were getting in the way of the real fun. If those Mass Effect remasters are indeed coming, let's hope they do something to fix these sections. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.